Thank you all for coming on short notice. I stand here on and want to acknowledge with deep gratitude the traditional territory of the Saanich people, Haishkasem. We are now in an election at many levels. My own personal election is here to become the next Member of Parliament, continuing my work as the Member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Islands. I always find it interesting that every time the Speaker recognizes me in Parliament, and I do speak more often in Parliament than any other MP, which is ironic considering the various obstacles we have as a small party. But Saanich Gulf Islands is, of course, mispronunciation of Wasanich, the traditional people of this territory, and to them in the language of this territory, Sanchothan, Haishkasem. I had what many would describe as a rude awakening this morning in discovering at 4:30 in the morning, a phone call from people in other time zones within the Green Party team, that something quite unbelievable had happened. That the Debates Commission had reversed themselves after painstakingly reviewing the various ways in which the Green Party of Canada met all the criteria that they had put before us to participate in the leaders' debates. I stand before you with many more scars than any other political leader in Canada, having been variously rejected from debates, working my way back into the debates, having rules change arbitrarily during the process of deciding who could be in debates, going back to the first debate in which I participated so long ago that I was debating Stephen Harper and Gilles Duceppe and Stéphane Dion, Jack Layton, on a stage in 2008, where I'd been told by, at that point, the debates were run by something called the Consortium, a group of media networks that decided who would be in and who would be out. And the rule was always, for many, many years, going back to the 1960s, that if you had a member of parliament at the point of dissolution, Richard, I think we're hearing you here.
90% candidates, 3% polling.
Richard?
Sitting MP.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So yeah, the rules over the years have changed and shifted, and the rule makers have changed and shifted. In 2008, an independent MP joined the Green Party specifically to help me make sure that the Greens were in the debates. Other party leaders objected. I could go through all of my experience with debates, and it would take too long. The consistency in it is its inconsistency. A desire by larger parties to keep out the Green Party, a desire by establishment forces, whether editorial boards like the Globe and Mail or the National Post, to exclude Greens, to increasingly move to a two-party system. It's been an extraordinary experience and one that I wouldn't care to repeat, and I really thought that with the creation of the Debates Commission, that period of inconsistency, shifting rules, and last-minute decisions to exclude the Green Party would be over. That's why it was such a rude awakening. I could not have believed it was possible that after we established that we met all of the criteria to be in the debates, confirmed as recently as a week ago by the Debates Commission, and we were in a period of an interregnum there where it takes a while to find out how many of your nominated candidates have been confirmed. Returning officers have to look at the signatures. And I'm sorry, we've got phones ringing on top of my podium, and I don't know what to do, Aisha. I'm sorry, maybe I don't know. If the phones are ringing, I feel like I should answer them, but they're not for me, really. They're just listening in. Sorry for the confusion. Sorry. Again, to recap so that it's a coherent clip for you, since 2008, when I first participated in the leaders' debates on behalf of the Green Party of Canada, I've experienced unfairness in many ways, larger parties colluding with each other to exclude the Greens by boycotting the debates until they get canceled, various things, every election a fight. Now, after the 2015 election, the Debates Commission was established because it was very clear that for the point of view of effective and functioning democracy, when we had clear rules, and you were allowed in the debates if you had a sitting member of parliament. The debates commission was created when, after the 2015 election, the decision by two leaders to boycott the debates got the debates canceled. At the time the government looked at this, the debates commission looked at this and said, look, when you had clear rules, when there was one English language debate and one French language debate sponsored by the national networks, millions of people watched it. The following election in 2015, only a couple 100,000 people saw the various boutique debates put on by Maclean's, the Globe and Mail, and other entities, and including Radio-Canada. The Debates Commission was created for the very reason that we needed fair, consistent, neutral, and impartial application of rules. I think the Debates Commission was doing a really good job until today, when they made, and to call it last minute is an understatement. We've been talking to them, and when I say we, the national campaign team of the Green Party of Canada, who've been the contact people for the Debates Commission for months now, we're in conversation and explaining, yes, we met all three of your criteria, and they were nodding and agreeing. There's been a really large pressure campaign mounted on the Debates Commission to get them to reverse themselves. If it stands, if the public isn't able to do, if people who are outraged by this don't speak up now, we will once again have skewed, unfair, and undemocratic leaders' debates, starting with this evening's. Yesterday, the Debates Commission was able to make a sudden change of plan to move up the debate by 2 hours to avoid the conflict with the hockey game. Clearly, they can make decisions. They can make them the day of, and they can reverse themselves because this decision is anti-democratic, as my co-leader Jonathan Pedneau explained this morning in a much earlier press conference held in Montreal. As co-leaders, we both speak for the party, and we speak with one voice. This is anti-democratic. This is a mistake. Jonathan Pedneau will be on the stage tonight, and we ask for the help of the public to support that a party with over 200 candidates running in every single province, running in the Yukon and the Northwest Territories, candidates across this country with 2 elected members of parliament sitting at the time of dissolution, 1 from Ontario, 1 from BC, with candidates primed to win in their seats in BC, in Ontario, in New Brunswick. How is it, and how will Canadians feel about a debate that's supposed to be fair, where every Canadian across Canada and everyone outside Quebec with no chance whatsoever to find a Bloc Québécois candidate on their ballot will hear a full opportunity from Yves-François Blanchet, and I'm not for 1 minute suggesting Mr. Blanchet doesn't belong on that stage, but the contrast is extraordinary, and I ask Canadians to think about this. Every single voter in every province in this country will have an opportunity to hear from the leader of the Bloc Québécois, but with Green Party candidates on the ballot in every single province, the Northwest Territories and Yukon, not hear from the Green Party of Canada, with 2 sitting MPs, which was always the test. I take, some of people in the media will remember as far back as the early 90s, when Preston Manning got on the stage in the leaders' debate on the strength of having had 1 candidate win in the by-election. Deb Gray's reform was sufficient for the leaders' debates that year to include Preston Manning. It was the launching pad for the Reform Party that eventually became essentially the majority government in this country because it cannibalized the Progressive Conservatives. Look, I'm going to stop and take your questions, but this is a really critical moment for Canadian democracy. Again, we were given the rules. We abided by the rules. The Debates Commission agreed that we met all the standards and that we would be, for sure, in the debates. We received a letter at 7:20 Eastern Time this morning, 4:20 here in BC. Excuse me if I'm a little tired, but the shock of this rude awakening is not wearing off. And our determination to push back is unwavering. We have sent the Debates Commission a clear letter explaining why we believe they have made a mistake and asking for a reconsideration. As you heard from Jonathan Pedneau this morning, he remains ready to take the stage tonight in the French language leaders debate. That is fair. That is democratic. And we will continue to ask Canadians for your support from coast to coast to coast to ensure that voices are not silenced, that the voices of the issues that are most ignored in this election, whether the climate crisis or Indigenous reconciliation, or even how one stands up to a bully like Donald Trump with different perspectives brought to the table. That's what Greens do. In Parliament, we are respectful. We work to bring different perspectives that are based on the evidence to the table. We have a right to be on that stage tonight. And I ask, on behalf of all Greens across the country, all our volunteers and all our candidates, to please, to the Debates Commission, be fair, reconsider. You have our letter before you, and it's very clear that a mistake was made within the Debates Commission. Please reverse your last-minute, hasty, and incorrect decision. Thank you, merci. Est-ce qu'il y a le milieu ici francophone? Je peux répéter un peu, parce que c'est clair que maintenant la décision de commission de débat est inégale, injuste et contre les vraies démocraties. Moi-même, comme chef de Parti vert, j'ai eu les expériences élection après élection avec les décisions des autres pour rejeter la participation du Parti vert. Maintenant, c'est le plus injuste que jamais. Et nous avons envoyé au débat de commission une lettre de demander, exiger de changer leur décision en dernière minute, de rejeter la participation de Jonathan Pedneau comme co-chef du Parti vert. Nous avons gagné tous les criteria des commissions de débat, et maintenant nous demandons le droit de participer ce soir. Merci. Do you want to check the phones? Make sure they're online. Sorry.
Yeah, Elizabeth, it's Richard Zussman here.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
You're looking very small and rectangular today.
Yes, I'm sorry I'm not there in person.
I know. Sorry. Can everybody hear Richard's question, or should I repeat it?
No,
Okay.
Go ahead. I think it's coming through the microphone.
No, he says to repeat it, but that's okay. You go, Richard.
Sure. The consortium rules are the consortium rules, and there are three criteria, as you know. One of them is one MP, you guys qualify. The other is a polling percentage above 4, you do not qualify, and the other is 90% candidates, you do not qualify.
That's not. That's you have to. No, Richard, you have to read the whole rule. 90%. You have to have nominated candidates.
I believe the rule is how it's being misinterpreted here.
Okay. First of all, it's no longer the consortium, but that's an understandable. Okay. Richard Zussman's question, if I could paraphrase, is in looking at the rules put forward by the new Debates Commission, how is it that they misinterpreted them? And how do Greens believe this is a misinterpretation that violates their own rules? Yes, they had reviewed the criteria with us, and as recently as less than a week ago confirmed that we met those rules. The way it's phrased around the number of candidates is how many candidates are nominated. We had a full slate nominated. After the nominations, there is a period of uncertainty, and frankly, when Prime Minister Mark Carney had gone to the Governor General, he'd said we'd like an election on May 5th instead of April 28th, we would have, I think, certainly more candidates and probably a full slate nominated. There was a very tight time squeeze. On April 8th, we put out a press release because for the first time in our experience as a party of over 40 years of experience, we met a different climate going door to door or standing in a shopping mall. I think all of you in the media are familiar with the process of getting signatures, not of supporters, but people who say, I will say this person is qualified to stand for election. It's not an endorsement. It's to say, I live in this riding. This person, this individual, putting themselves forward to run for office is a qualified human being. The criteria for that are very low. Do you live in the riding? Does somebody look at you and say, yeah, okay, this person should be allowed to run? That process was very, very different this time around for many parties. We've heard it from a number of the other smaller parties. We've heard it from the Conservatives in certain ridings. It was very hard to collect signatures in a way that I've never seen before. When I was just visiting in New Brunswick for Pam Allen LeBlanc and her team, there were a number of candidates who told me that particularly in seniors communities, for the first time ever, seniors would say, I'm not signing anything. I don't know you. I'm not giving you my address. Levels of skepticism at giving your information to somebody on a form we've never encountered before, but worse than that was bullying, harassments, and threats of violence. We had volunteers saying, I'm not going out again. I don't feel safe going out. Now, this experience was so sufficiently concerning that when I had my top secret security briefing last week, it was actually on April 9th, with the CSIS and Privy Council members who brief those who are leaders of parties on what security threats or foreign interference we're seeing. And I'm not saying this was either of those, but I said, I want you to know, and if you're not hearing it from other parties, please tell the Commissioner of Elections that something needs to be done because we're experiencing something we've never seen on the ground before. Harassment, bullying, threats, to the point that some volunteers are afraid to continue to go out and collect signatures. We also had something we've never seen before, but I think this is, and again, I have a lot of respect for Elections Canada, so I don't want anything I say to be seen as criticism of Elections Canada. But you have now 243 new returning officers. Some have done the job before, most haven't. The time to understand the rules, the time to interpret them, to know what to say to a candidate who walks in the door and says, here's my forms and my signatures. I have 130 signatures here. I only need 100. Can I be put on the ballot? Then in some cases, our candidates were told, I can't take paper forms. You have to upload this information and put it on the Elections Canada website yourself. That wasn't true. In some cases, people were caught in the rain and their signatures were slightly smudged. You say, well, you can see that. So, in any case, I won't go through all the examples. There are many, Richard. But the only reason we didn't have all the candidates who were nominated on the ballot had to do with the short amount of time available and this new climate, which is, I'm afraid, part of the general political landscape of being more hostile, certainly as somebody who's been a member of Parliament and run for Parliament since 2006. I've never seen anything like, and I know some of my colleagues in Parliament have decided, particularly women, not to even run again because the climate is different. People feel a sense of personal insecurity, a lack of safety. Not just people like Pam Damoff, who is a great MP who's not running again because of the hostility she gets over social media, or attacks on our constituency offices, which we've also experienced even here in Sidney. We need to be very clear about the fact that the only reason there weren't all of our nominated candidates making it to the ballot was because of the difficulty in collecting signatures and on time. Now, the Debates Commission knew this. They accepted our explanation. There were no issues. We had met all their rules, and then there was a very clear public campaign to push us out. And that's why we're asking the Debates Commission to reconsider. Their rulings, nothing has changed on the facts of the matter from when they said the Greens are included. The Greens have met all the rules. The Debates Commission itself said that repeatedly until this morning. And so we're asking for a reconsideration.
I just, Elizabeth, if they do not reconsider...
I've got somebody else asking the question. I'm sorry, I'm blinded by the sun here. Oh, it's Rob from CTV. Richard, can you let Rob, or do you want to ask a follow-up and then I'll get to Rob?
I just ask my follow-up and then
Okay. Oh, no, it's okay. Richard, everybody here is cool with you doing your follow-up. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get a sense, if you were not included, Elizabeth, what does this do for the green movement in this country? Is there an impact that this, as it has done positively with you on the debate stage, could this severely impact the movement across the country, not being included in the debates?
Absolutely. The highest vote count we get is in the elections when we're on the stage in the debates. Oh, sorry. Oh, phones are affecting audio on the cameras. We're just checking some technical stuff here, Richard. It could affect us. I hope it won't. The reality is, sorry. Okay, thanks. Oh, Canadian voters saw through efforts to exclude us in the past. And in the year in which I was elected here in Saanich Gulf Islands, we were kept out of the debates. We won our first seat anyway. But it definitely hurts us in Quebec, particularly, where our co-leader is the only Quebecer other than the Bloc Québécois leader, the only Federalist Quebecer on a national leaders debate stage is being excluded. The youngest leader at 34, with an ability to articulate green policies on fairness, on accountability, on ethics, on climate, on human rights. To exclude that voice is particularly egregious, just as when they used to exclude me as the only woman in the debates. We have a right to be there. We need the support of Canadians, and frankly, the letter from the Debates Commission made it transparent that they had invented a new reason to keep us out, and that reason is not grounded in fact. We never had any decision, nor did we strategically remove candidates from any seat. So, given that it was a misunderstanding, we hope the Debates Commission will reconsider, because they themselves said we met all of the criteria. So I'll go to Rob. Yeah, Rob.
I had a couple questions. I'm wondering, your party in 2019 elected 3 MPs. In 2021, that number dropped to 2. Your popular support dropped significantly, almost by a third. You're now facing not having a leader in the debate. Are you concerned that we're seeing your party becoming less relevant with time, especially given all the concerns about the economy now and today's decision?
I don't see that. What I know is that in 2021 we had a rough campaign, largely related to a new leader and the style of leadership that created divisions even within our own party. That's never good. I know that right now, inclusion in the debates doesn't necessarily salvage the NDP's chances to win in many seats across Canada. It's not right or fair. I certainly don't want to see a two-party system in this country. We know what it does in the United States. A binary choice between Democrat and Republican, or in Canada, Liberal or Conservative, does not serve democracy. So I certainly wish all the candidates well from the smaller parties. But does it show a declining level of support, that we're more likely to elect more than 3 MPs in this election than we ever have before? I don't think so. The depth of support for Greens is not necessarily well measured in national polls. As I said, when I won in 2011, not only was I excluded from the debates, there wasn't a single poll published anywhere, nor media punditry and discussion that thought I had a chance of beating a sitting member of Stephen Harper's cabinet. Elections are won or lost on the ground, door to door. The Greens run campaigns relying on people power, and we have depth of support, as evidenced by Mike Morris's support in Kitchener Centre, and the fact that his MPP in Queen's Park, Ashland Clancy, was solidly elected twice with a landslide, and nobody saw that coming. So again, being excluded from the debates is not going to help us, but I don't read it as and in terms of how we've done over the years, we've done better than any Green Party anywhere in the world operating under the first past the post system. We've elected Greens not only in one region, and not just on Vancouver Island, and when you look at our provincial cousins, the Lower Mainland, you look across the country, Prince Edward Island holding the official opposition for a time, New Brunswick over and over again, a solid voice in opposition. Ontario with Mike Schreiner and Ashland Clancy. We are a party that has succeeded in a a system designed to make it hard for us. That's not why it was designed that way. Certainly, Queen Victoria didn't have us in mind when she bequeathed to us her hand-me-down voting system. But it certainly was the case that a lot of us had hope when Justin Trudeau said 2015 would be the last election under first past the post, that we would no longer face these headwinds of people saying, gosh, I really like the Greens best, but this time I've got to go vote for someone holding my nose because the other guy's worse. Fairness in our voting system is fundamental. But for today, our message is fairness in the debates commission. We have to have trust in our institutions. This is a new institution that has just made itself much less credible. For instance, by telling some of the media last night that we weren't going to be allowed in the debates and telling us at 7:20 in the morning. If we'd known last night, the lawyers we called today might have been able to have time to run to court for an injunction, but we were told today there's no time. Fairness, time, and reconsideration will do more good for democracy. This really isn't about just how unjust this is to the Green Party. This is how unjust this is to voters across Canada who will tune in and without a doubt hear from Yves-François Blanchet, where there's not a single Bloc Québécois candidate on any ballot outside Quebec, but not hear from the Green Party of Canada with over 200 candidates in every single province and the Northwest Territories and the Yukon, in places where there's no Bloc candidate on the ballot, and we're the ones who don't get included. That's not fair.
By way of follow-up, I just wanted to run by you. You said you speak with one voice. I gather until Monday, I believe, that there was a strategic decision by the party to run fewer candidates. That's something the commission's also talked about. Can you react to that?
Yeah.
Can you confirm whether there were practical court action being brought by the party?
Well, we can't. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say. In terms of a court action, in consulting with a lawyer who is expert in this field, I won't use his name at this point, but certainly somebody eminent, there just isn't time. I used to practice law. I've rushed to court with what gets called, your emergency injunction effort, quia timit ex parte, running to court. You can't put the paperwork together in time before the debate starts this evening. Going to court after the fact is rather moot. We need the decision reversed today on the matter of fairness. And Jonathan and I, we are extremely close. I have full confidence in his brilliance. His life history is extraordinary. And he sent me a text to say it was probably a mistake to try to guess how many people might have left the ballot because they themselves felt pressured. A lot of our candidates, and this is another thing, and I know we're not alone in this, a lot of candidates across the country, whether Greens or NDP or maybe even other smaller parties, have faced extreme pressure, including on their family members on social media. Drop out of the race, you're just in the way, that kind of thing. It's hard on people, especially when you're putting yourself forward for service and you're a volunteer. So we don't know if some of our candidates chose not to put their names on the ballot. I don't think so. If it was, they didn't communicate with us. It may have been a handful. When pressed, and Jonathan just sent me a note to say it probably was a mistake that he tried to quantify what that number might be. But as a team at the national level, neither the national campaign manager nor Jonathan nor I made any kind of decision to withdraw candidates. So that's a mistake, a misunderstanding that was made. Certainly you'll find no statement from the Green Party. It was in an interview, and it's unfortunate, but it's a misunderstanding. And that was explained to the Debates Commission all day yesterday. And as far as we knew, they'd understood and accepted that that was an error, and that we asked them, show us any evidence. Find one candidate, why don't you, where they were removed for strategic reasons by the party. They'll never find any evidence because it didn't happen. And if that's the reason for excluding us, based on a misunderstanding, then they owe it to democracy and their own reputation for impartial application of rules that all of us in all the different parties across Canada agreed to those rules. We were we met all those criteria. We should be in the debates. And frankly, I expect we will be. Jonathan closed his press conference this morning in Montreal saying he will be there. He'll show up. He'll be there to debate. And Canadians have a right to know what it is he'll say. They know what Mark Carney's going to say. They know what Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh are going to say. They know what Yves-François Blanchet is going to say. We hear it a lot. What voters haven't heard is what the Green Party puts forward on our platform, what the Green Party will do in a parliament, potentially a minority parliament, whereas in the past in provinces across this country and nationally, Greens in parliaments act respectfully, work hard, and are consistently honest. A mistake was made in terms of trying to quantify a number without having any idea if there were any, but it's a mistake, a misunderstanding, and the Debates Commission knew that yesterday. To send us a message at 7:20 in the morning on the day of the debates, without time to get an injunction, without even time to draft the affidavits that are necessary to go to federal court to seek an injunction, is manifestly unfair, and I think Canadians will see that.
Elizabeth, can you speak to what happened at the local all candidates debate? There was a between you and Kathy on Sidney called you a name. Can you give us
I don't want to overblow that. It was certainly unfortunate and unpleasant. I have to say that at the local level, my experience running for office in Saanich Gulf Islands has always been that all the other candidates are very respectful. And I'd say Gary Lunn was, although obviously I was motivated to run against him because of the policies of the Stephen Harper government, but Gary himself was always very cordial. And we sometimes would, chat and joke, and we always did on the front of the stage. And the same with David Bush, who replaced him as the Conservative candidate. So I had expected that, I'd never met Kathy, but I thought the first debate, all candidates meeting in Saanich Gulf Islands, she didn't come. That was on Pender. The second opportunity with all candidates together was at Berwick at Royal Oak. And I assumed I always get along with people. So I wasn't expecting, and it wasn't to the whole audience, it was to me at the front table. And yesterday when I was talking to David Beckham at the Salt Spring Island event, where Kathy also didn't show up, he confirmed to me he heard what she said. So it was very unpleasant. I hope she'll show up at other all-candidate meetings so I can apologize to her if she thinks there's something I did that prompted her to use names that in Parliament are considered unparliamentary. I'm still, I don't want to make too much of it because I don't like repeating what it was she called me. Moo. Thanks. Any further questions from anyone? As Greens, I can tell you one thing. Selon le Parti Vert du Canada, nous continuons. Nous sommes un parti qui est absolument engagé pour ce pays, pour les enjeux primordiaux comme crise, changement climatique, pour les questions de pauvreté, pour la justice sociale. Nous sommes comme Verts ici dans les élections. Et Jonathan Pedneau va continuer dans son rôle comme porte-parole de Parti Vert dans les débats. He'll be there tonight. The Debates Commission has only a few hours to review our letter of explanation and detailed rebutting of the point. They only have one reason for putting us out of debates, and we've rebutted that in our letter to them. We want the Debates Commission to retain its integrity, and to do that, I know it's going to be hard for them. They were pushed hard by lots of forces to kick us out, but now they have time to reflect and to make sure they connect with us so that in time for the hockey game, Jonathan Pedneau can be on the stage at the Débat des Chefs. Thank you so very much. Any further questions? No, we're good. What a gorgeous day. I'm glad you could all come out here to Celesta Park.